Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1906B, and today's date is July 2nd, 2019, and the title of the episode is Inspector General Investigation Complete. White House says it's hammer time. Now, before we get started, we've been talking about protecting your devices, protecting yourself from big tech. I mean, it's the year 2019, and if you're not using a VPN by now on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device while you browse the internet, then you're really exposing yourself to a lot of potential danger. Here, let me show you how easy this is. Click Connect. Once I'm connected, my IP address is now different than before. See? This month, Virtual Shield is offering a 4th of July celebration special. Sign up for free for 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN and see what the hype is all about. You have nothing to lose. Click the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we are getting word that some of the investigations, they are now complete. And it seems like the White House is letting us know that it's hammer time. We'll be talking about that in just a minute. But I wanted to talk about what Trump said yesterday in his tweet about the Clinton Foundation. Remember the tweet he tweeted out? This was July 1st. That's right. The Trump Foundation gave away 100% plus with zero rent or expenses charged and has been being sued by Cuomo and New York State for years. Another part of the political witch hunt. Just in case anyone is interested, Clinton Foundation never even looked at. Well, Hillary Clinton decided to respond to this with her tweet. She said, the Clinton Foundation has, among many other things, provided 13,000 doses of naloxone to fight ODs and help deliver supplies to Puerto Rico in the face of your inaction. Your foundation in New York, AG's words, engage in a shocking pattern of illegality. Now, what is Clinton doing right now? She is projecting. And she is projecting everything that she did with her foundation, all the illegal crimes and everything like that, and she's projecting this onto Trump's. Now, you know what's going to happen. They're going to find absolutely nothing with Trump's foundation. Remember, when they were having Trump come in, the Patriots, they went through everything because they knew that these individuals, the deep state, would check and comb through everything. So they made sure everything was on the up and up. And they did this on purpose. It was all part of the plan. This is why, as we move forward, they never can find anything. Now, Jeff Carlson decided to respond to Clinton's tweet. He tweeted out the following. AG Barr stated that the U.S. Attorney John Huber had other issues he's been working on that relate to Hillary Clinton. Barr noted that those are winding down and hopefully will be in a position to bring those to fruition. Now think about that for a second. The investigation into Hillary Clinton, email, Uranium One, Foundation, they're winding down right now. Do you think Clinton's getting a little nervous? You think this is why she's projecting? Of course it is. These individuals know what is coming. They realize that once these investigations have been completed, they're going to be presented to the public. Once they're presented to the public, well, there's going to be documentation. There's going to be evidence. There's going to be the truth, which means those players, the deep state players, they are going to be fully on the defensive. And they'll be defending themselves from now until they go to prison. But they're going to try to stop this any way they possibly can. They're trying everything to get Trump, and at the same time projecting what they've done or what the deep state has done. I mean, look what Elijah Cummings is doing. He decided, and he's demanding, by the way, private emails from Trump administration officials to determine if they violate record-keeping laws. Cummings suggested that Robert Mueller discovered evidence of violations of record-keeping law and called out Steve Bannon by name. Now, Bannon admitted to using a BlackBerry for work-related communications, and Mueller says that he took no steps to preserve these work communications. Who else used a separate phone for emails? A separate server for emails? Wasn't that Clinton? Are they projecting once again? Absolutely. So Cummings, he's given the Trump administration a deadline of July 10th. And we have to remember that Clinton destroyed 33,000 emails under subpoena and took hammers to her BlackBerries and iPads. And did anyone say anything? No one blinked an eye. They covered it all up. Jim Jordan, he said the following, that the Presidential Records Act was not intended to create a fishing license for Chairman Cummings to pry into the private communications of the first family. This is yet another example of Democrats' obsession with finding some rationale to impeach the president. Yes, they're doing whatever they possibly can to get Trump out of office because they know what is coming. So the House and Ways and Means Committee is now suing the IRS and Treasury Department for Trump's tax returns. Why are they suing? Remember Mnuchin? He defied Congress, their subpoena for documents and testimony. We also had the Justice Department release a 33-page legal opinion backing Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's refusal to release the last 6 years of Trump's tax returns. It went on to say, while the executive branch should accord due deference and respect to congressional requests, Treasury was not obliged to accept the committee's stated purpose without question, and based on all the facts and circumstances, we agreed that the committee's lack of legitimate legislative purpose for its request. Stephen Engel, an Assistant Attorney General in the Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel, he said this in the 33-page opinion. Well, they didn't like that. So now they're suing for it. Now, I need to back up a little bit. Remember, Trump and the Patriots, they planned for all of this. This is military planning. And I've said this before. They knew once they said that Trump will not hand over his tax returns, they knew that they were going to try to get the tax returns any way they possibly could. Now, since they knew this, since they knew they were going to continue to fight to get it, and the Patriots were going to hold off and make them really want it, I believe this was set up on purpose. I believe they already went through his tax returns. I believe the IRS already went through the tax returns. Everything is on the up and up. They're using this to trap the deep state. Eventually, if it gets that far, the tax returns will be handed over, and they will have nothing. And we'll see how this all plays out, because we need to understand that these investigations, they're wrapping up. And they're wrapping up very, very quickly. Now, of course, the deep state, they're putting Mueller in front of Congress. We know that Weissman is in the back room giving them certain information. If there was real information, it would have been out there already. Weissman would have leaked it out. They would have had all this information, but they've had nothing. Now, of course, what they're going to do is they're going to create propaganda. And it's going to come out from the back room. Trump realizes that Mueller is going to testify, and he realizes that it's meaningless at this point. Why? Because they have everything on all of these individuals. Trump tweeted out the following: Robert Mueller is being asked to testify yet again. He said he could only stick to the report, and that is what he would and must do. After so much testimony and total transparency, this witch hunt must now end. No more do-overs, no collusion, no obstruction. The great hoax is dead. Now, of course, Mueller's not going to be saying that much. They're going to be using Weissman to leak out information, to build this up. And it's going to fail. The deep state is getting very, very nervous right now. They're trying to get ahead of the information that's coming out. They're trying to control the narrative, but it won't work because the evidence will point to the truth. I mean, look at what the Washington Post has put out there. They're trying to get ahead of the story. So, as we've seen in the past, there's been a pattern which reflects the Department of Justice FBI leak their needs to the New York Times. The preferred outlet for the U.S. State Department is CNN. The Washington Post generally comes out first in defense of the CIA agenda. The pattern has been remarkably consistent for years. So the Washington Post, seemingly out of nowhere, put out an article to get ahead and diffuse the story about Joseph Mifsud. So let's read a little bit about what the Washington Post had to say. The Maltese-born professor did not service publicly since that October 2017 interview. Days after Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about details of their interactions. Among them, Papadopoulos told investigators was an April 2016 meeting in which Mifsud alerted him that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. The conversation between Mifsud and Papadopoulos, eventually relayed by an Australian diplomat to U.S. government officials, was cited by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III as the event that set in motion the FBI probe into ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. Now, we know that this is completely fake, phony, and false. The entire Washington Post article is fraught with highly manipulated narrative engineering intended to cloud the fact that clear evidence exists that Professor Mifsud's engagement with George Papadopoulos was directed by some entity other than Mifsud. Why is the Washington Post all out front of Joseph Mifsud all of a sudden? Likely it's because someone in the background, Barr via Durham, is peeking at the connective tissue between Brennan's instructions in 2015 and 2016 and Brennan's electronic communications resulted to the FBI in July 2016 that kicked off the counterintelligence operation against candidate Trump known as Crossfire Hurricane. Now, there is clearly some recording of Papadopoulos and or transcript of Papadopoulos engaging with CIA and FBI assets that Trey Gowdy has claimed to be very exculpatory toward any claim that Papadopoulos was doing anything wrong. Those transcripts are possibly part of AG Barr's declassification directive. Remember back in May when Devin Nunes told AG Barr something was going on? This is via Fox News. He's the first person that we know on Earth that supposedly knows something about the Russians having Hillary's emails, Nunes said. He has since denied that, but Special Counsel Robert Mueller in his report claimed that Mifsud, or insinuated that Mifsud, was some sort of Russian asset. We know that this is not the case. In fact, we know that he was in the U.S. Capitol, just steps away from an intelligence committee. So Nunes said it is impossible that Mifsud is a Russian asset. He's a former diplomat with the Malta government. He lived in Italy. He worked and taught FBI, trained FBI officials, and worked with FBI officials. I would say that someone in the CIA is getting very, very nervous, and they're trying to get out ahead of this story. And it doesn't matter what stories they put out there, because the Patriots are going to be looking at the real evidence. They're not going to be looking at newspaper stories. They're not going to be looking at CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, and New York Times. They're going to be looking at real evidence, documentation that's been signed, that's been stamped for approval, the cover-up of what they have done. And this is what's going to get them. Now, some of these investigations, they are now wrapping up. Representative Radcliffe notes he has recently spoken to Inspector General Horowitz about the timing of his upcoming report, where Radcliffe says the investigative work is complete. So, if previous reports of Christopher Steele being willing to speak to U.S. authorities about his dossier work in 2016 are accurate, maybe Horowitz already has completed his investigative work, which means he must have already interviewed Steele. Well, it seems that Gates confirms this. Take a listen.
It's in tonight for Sean, and as we speak, the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz is nearing the end of his investigation into FISA abuse. In just a few short weeks, the truth will be revealed and deep state corruption will be exposed. Congressman John Ratcliffe was recently briefed by Horowitz on the progress of his investigation, and coming up, the congressman will be here to give us a preview of the upcoming events. Keep in mind, there are multiple ongoing probes into rampant corruption, misconduct, leaking, political bias, all while James Comey was heading up the FBI. Yet in a recent CNN town hall, James Comey said that he was proud of the way his department conducted business. Watch this.
I can't believe Republicans would have wanted it any other way, and we acted in a responsible, limited, and constrained way. I'm proud of the way we conducted ourselves.
Are you confident you did everything by the book and that the FBI, the people around you, did everything by the book?
Yes.
No
doubt in my mind, but that doesn't mean I'm against review of it. That's totally fine.
So you think the Inspector General will find nothing inappropriate?
I don't think so. At least not that I know of. But if they do, they do, and they should be transparent about it.
Oh, and I think they will be.
So it looks like the countdown has officially started. And more of these investigations are starting to wrap up, which means they're going to be combing through all of this, putting together a case. Now, down at the border, it seems that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'll just call her AOC, she was invited down to the border to look at the detention centers and report back on these. Now, she completely flipped out. And she started to tweet out live what she was seeing. And she was saying that the facilities were unacceptable. She contended the behavior of the officers she encountered there. She felt unsafe. She said that the CBP officers said, listen, if you can't get water, drink out of the toilets. And she went on and on and on. And she tweeted this stuff out. Now, very interestingly, when you look at these facilities, they're very, very similar. The toilets are connected to sinks. Now, does this mean every single one of them is working properly? Most likely not. Remember, it's the government. And do I think the officers told these individuals to drink out of the toilets? I don't think so. I think she's blowing a lot of this out of proportion. Now, the thing is, they weren't allowed to bring cameras in there, but it looks like they snuck some cameras in there, and they only took a picture of the women they spoke to. So they're all sitting there, and they snapped a picture of these individuals. And they're saying that this is just unbelievable in what they're seeing. And this should not be allowed. So let's think about this for a second. So she was set up to go on a tour, and she came out where she snuck away and she spoke to individuals, and they were telling her they're making them, drink out of toilets. They're doing this. Remember, they're not holding these individuals there. They can leave and go back into Mexico. They don't have to stay in the U.S. This is not a prison. And also, we need to understand something very, very important. Remember, she was the one at the fence crying, and she had this photo op where it looked like she was watching children being ripped away from their parents. That wasn't the case. She was looking into an empty lot. Yes, there were officers standing there, but nothing was going on. This was a photo op for her. This was planned. It was a stunt. And when you look at the video, there was someone filming behind all of this. It shows that there was an empty lot. There was really nothing going on there. Now, the mainstream media, Clinton and the rest, AOC, they're all out there saying that the children, they're being kept in cages, their parents are being tortured, and they're making it seem like everything that's happening down at the border is just horrific. It sounds really bad. Is it true? No. Is the Trump administration perpetrating a mass atrocity on the border? and threatening members of Congress who ask too many questions? More specifically, are children still being separated from their parents? Are these detention camps we hear about creations of the Trump administration and its zero-tolerance policy? No, they're not. Family separation, an admittedly vile policy, ended a year ago. The CBP detention centers are not operating any differently today than they were during the Obama administration, with the exception that today they are overcrowded and undermanned. Hence the border crisis. Yes, it's real. But the Central Americans apprehended by the Border Patrol, they're not being held against their will, nor are children being kept in cages. Indeed, the entire statutory regime under which the Trump administration is dealing with the border crisis is no different than it was under Obama, because Congress has not changed any laws regulating the agencies in charge, despite the manifest reasons why it should. So Congress, they haven't changed anything at the border. This is their responsibility. Trump continually says, this is your responsibility. What we're witnessing is something closer to the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation circus. Democrats, the deep state, these operatives, they're pulling the exact same stunt. And they're trying to seem like that this is absolutely awful. Now, let's go back in time just a little bit here. And Joaquin Castro responded to AOC and tweeted out the following. Here are the migrant detention photos from yesterday on the left versus my photos from 2014 on the right. Why weren't they mad then? Strange. Now, when you look at these photos, these are from 2014. And when you look at it, where were all these individuals? Where was the mainstream media? Where was everyone? They couldn't be found. Obama was the president at the time. And as you can see, the conditions are the same or even worse. And where was everyone? They weren't even talking about it. Who was? We were. Other alternative media outlets were. Breitbart was. And many other outlets were. But the mainstream media, Congress, nothing. So think about this for a second. Why is this like this? Why do we have a border crisis? Well, don't we have to go back to the beginning? We do. If we go back to November 20th of 2014, right after the elections, Obama signed a memorandum. DHS expanded the DACA program. They made calls, and I don't mean on a phone, they made calls to other countries in Central America and South America, and they told them, bring up your children. The parents can follow. So how did this start? It started with Obama and before Obama, but Obama expanded this. That is the problem. Trump is continually out there calling on Congress to stop all of this. But they haven't. Yes, they pushed through a bill to help these individuals because they needed the funding. But once again, this is their doing. Actually, Jay Johnson, the former DHS secretary, he said, listen, the cages, the barbed wire, whatever you want to call it, they weren't invented by Trump. They were there before Trump. And there's a picture of him back in January of 2017 walking through the facilities. Trump was just elected. These facilities already existed, and these people were sleeping in cages. Where was Congress? If they're so upset about this, where were they? They weren't anywhere to be found. They didn't care. They only care because it's Trump. Now, Trump is out there, and he made an announcement that they're going to go after those individuals that are illegally in this country. And this is going to start July 4th, and after July 4th. And a lot of people are going to be brought back out and sent back to their countries. And this was delayed to give Democrats a chance. And guess what? It is back on. Now, very interestingly, it looks like Nike was coming out with a Betsy Ross sneaker, the Air Max sneaker, and this had the original flag that Betsy Ross created on the back. It was red, white, and blue. It was for July 4th. And Kaepernick came out and said, listen, I find this design very offensive. Now, Nike decided, okay, we're not going to allow this sneaker into the stores. We're going to recall them all. Some of them got out. So wait a minute. We have July 4th coming out. This is Betsy Ross who created the flag. It is on the sneaker. This is about Independence Day. How is this offensive? Remember, the Betsy Ross flag deserves no such smear. It's not offensive. The American Revolution was not fought to preserve slavery, but to achieve independence from Britain. The flag itself has well-known symbolism, adapted from the Grand Union flag, which itself was adapted and borrowed its color scheme from Britain's Union Jack, with the 13 red and white stripes and 13 stars representing the 13 original colonies. None of that has anything to do with glorifying or supporting the cause of slavery. Laura Ingraham tweeted out the following: "No more Nike sneakers for our family. Nike nixes Betsy Ross flag. Sneaker after Colin Kaepernick intervenes." Now, I believe that most of America would love to have this sneaker. I know when I spoke to my children, they said, yeah, I would like to wear this. This is really nice. So because of one person, they're deciding to not allow this out there. Well, why don't we let the people decide? Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, well, they lashed out against Nike after the company scrapped its plans to release the Betsy Ross flag sneaker. And Ted Cruz tweeted out the following: "It's a good thing Nike only wants to sell sneakers to people who hate the American flag." I mean, think about what is happening right now. Think about the agenda. Think about why this is happening. Well, it looks like the governor of Arizona said, you know something? This cannot stand. Doug Ducey tweeted out the following: "Nike has made its decision, and now we're making ours. I've ordered the Arizona Commerce Authority to withdraw all financial incentive dollars under their discretion that the state was providing for the company to locate here." People are angry. We're approaching July 4th, Independence Day. This has nothing to do with anything. And we need to understand why this is happening. Kaepernick is not working alone, by the way. He's just the front man. The deep state is behind this. So let's get this straight. A major corporation that makes billions of dollars is making business decisions from one person. Well, we know it's not just one person. It's the deep state that's pulling all the strings. And they're pushing their agenda. They've been doing this with statues, history, and it is not just happening here in the U.S., it's happening around the world, in Europe. Their main agenda is to strip countries of their identity. How else do you make a one-world government? You can't have countries sticking to their history, sticking to the beliefs, or patriotism. And this has always been their main agenda. And at this point, for me personally, I will never buy another Nike product because of this. And I am sure that there's going to be many, many other people that are going to be doing this. I mean, look how Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, the governor of Arizona, and when I speak to many other people, everyone is completely outraged about this. Now, very interestingly, in Afghanistan, the peace talks, they are going very, very well. Now, Trump said he's going to be leaving intelligence presence in Afghanistan. Now, he would like to withdraw all soldiers and everything from Afghanistan, but I do believe that he's going to leave certain intelligence presence in Afghanistan because he understands the deep state, they might try to do something. And I believe this is why he left a couple of soldiers and intelligence operatives in Syria, because until everything is removed, and when I say removed, all the black sites, the deep state is stopped, the swamp is drained, the central bank is gone, because the Patriots know the deep state, they will try to make a move or create an event at any time. And until everything is all said and done and everything is secured, there are going to be certain operatives still in place to keep control. Now, the majority of the soldiers, they're going to be coming home, which means these endless wars, they're coming to an end. Now, it looks like things are going very, very well in North Korea. Trump tweeted out the following: "It was great being with Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea this weekend. We had a great meeting. He looked really well and very healthy. I look forward to seeing him again soon. In the meantime, our teams will be meeting to work on some solutions to very long-term and persistent problems. No rush, but I am sure we will ultimately get there." Trump is talking about peace, denuclearization in North Korea. And what he's saying is that the teams are already working on this. Now, very interestingly, Pence, his flight that was scheduled to take off, it looks like they stopped it from taking off. So Air Force 2 never actually left Washington. He was called back to the White House. Now, a lot of people don't know what has been going on. We haven't gotten word, but we see that information has come out. And this is from Caitlin Collins, said Pence's office confirms Air Force 2 never actually left Washington. He was scheduled to attend an event on opioids in New Hampshire. Today, officials aren't saying why it was canceled, but said it's not cause for concern. So something came up, and it looks like he was not allowed to leave this area for a specific reason. Now, very interestingly, feds, they issued a July 4th terror bulletin. Now, we understand that Trump is going to have a July 4th celebration. If we look in the past, they have always kind of put out this terror bulletin to scare the people. And I believe this time it might be because the deep state is going to try to do something with the July 4th celebration that Trump is setting up. Do I think something's going to happen? I don't think so right now. I think the Patriots are on top of this. I think they're ready to intercept anything, but we'll have to see how this goes. And what they're saying is that there's a potential which exists for homegrown terrorists to strike someplace on soft targets around the country. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. Trump actually tweeted out the following: "Big 4th of July in D.C. Salute to America. The Pentagon and our great military leaders are thrilled to be doing this and showing to the American people, among other things, the strongest and most advanced military anywhere in the world, incredible flyovers, and biggest ever fireworks." Now think about this for a second. Trump is going to have the military showing the strength of military. Do you think he's showing the deep state that he controls all of this strength and is using it to make the deep state panic? I believe so. Now, what's very interesting is that we know that all these investigations, they're all winding down, they're wrapping up, and they're ready to put everything together. The White House tweeted out something very, very interesting. And this has to do with the USMCA, but the message is coincidental and the timing is coincidental. So do I think it's a coincidence? No, I do not. This is what they tweeted out. "Every major chamber of commerce and business group across North America supports USMCA," writes Glenn Hammer. "The time is now for Congress to act and to take advantage of all that USMCA has to offer." And down below, it says hammer time. Hammer time. The hammer is dropping. The investigations are wrapping up. I believe this is a message to the Patriots, letting us know it is now time. And we're going to see action very soon. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.